Happy Hump Day. Welcome to another episode of the Hockey Hub. Sophia and Adam here with you. We've got Sean Kuraly coming up. Not yet. We're going to catch up for a second, Adam, but we got to talk to Sean Kuraly yesterday about some serious stuff and then about a blooper that we had a long time ago. So we'll get to that. But first, Adam, you're wearing hold up your shirt if you can. You're wearing the swag. There it is.
That's right.
The Hockey
That's right.
Hub.
That's right. They say not to wear the band of the shirt when you're at the concert, or the shirt of the band, whatever, however that goes, right? The band shirt when you're at the concert. But I'm rocking it because I love it.
Well, you might not want to wear the band shirt at the concert. I disagree with that. I would do that. But when Nesson tells you to wear a shirt, that's what we're getting paid for, dude. We got to wear the shirt. You're wearing the shirt. You're doing
That's
it.
right.
Okay. We've been told. I don't have mine here. I'm in Toronto. I left mine in Boston, but when I'm back, we can twin and do it up. By the way, I don't know. I think I was supposed to promote where to get the shirts later. I'll do it again in the show, but since we're talking about it, NessonWickedWearables.com. And I actually went on the website. It's not just Hockey Up stuff. There's some pretty good swag on there. Some Red Sox stuff. I like it. All the podcast.
Yeah, I've checked it out. It's good stuff there. So, yeah, check out the website, but we'll do the official promo later in the show.
Yes. Okay. So as I mentioned, we have Sean Kuraly coming up. Got to talk to him yesterday. We're going to talk about trade rumors that are circling around the Boston Bruins. As we knew with free agency, it's never really done. It does completely slow down or severely slow down in the summers with most teams. You never really get big splashes, but teams are still trying to figure things out. And with training camp starting, you see who stands out, who doesn't, some PTO contracts. So there's always a little bit of movement. Pavel Zacha is in the trade rumor. So we're going to get to that a little bit later. And we talk about Charlie McAvoy and David Pastrnak and their roles as leaders coming up with the team. I believe we're ready for Sean Kuraly. I'm going to wait for the producer to say yes in my ear. Okay, yes, he said yes. Great. But Adam, before we throw to him, just a quick question for you. You've been the Red Sox guy. You've been doing so much for Nesson in your tenure here. I couldn't remember, were you covering ringside when Sean Kuraly was playing or not?
I was not. No, I was not ringside.
Not.
I started during the record-setting season.
Okay. Oh, of course. So you're the reason. Dude, we've been scratching our heads wondering why. Now we know. Well, you are going to get to know him. You're going to get to know him this year. And he's a great interview, except for one time, which we'll get to that. But he's a great interview, great guy. And obviously he's making his return to Boston. So without further ado, let's throw to our interview with Sean Kuraly. So happy to have Sean Kuraly, number one, back in a Bruins uniform, but two, on the Hockey Hub. Sean, God, I have so many questions. It's so nice to see you again. Welcome back to Boston. Let's start at the very beginning of how this all happened. I don't know if Sweens is allowed to call you, if it goes through your agent, but take me to the moment where you saw a number on your phone and you're like, okay, stuff's going down. When did this all happen, and take us through that process?
Right. It's first of all, so good to be back. I'm good to see you, Sophia, and good to see so many familiar faces in Boston and the city, and just a place that I kind of grew up in this league, and it's really special for me to be back, and it was definitely a place I always would have loved to come back to, and you just never know if it's going to work out, but luckily this time it did. And you ask how did it work? July 1st is kind of a sprint. On when free agency starts. So you kind of have to have your ducks in a row. A lot of talk with my agent and Justin Duberman, and we felt we were really prepared for the day. And, it was fun to get a lot of different calls from a lot of different teams. But when you get a call from Boston, and when we got that call, I definitely talked to my agent. I was like, let's pursue that. Let's see where this can go, and let's see if it's real. And if it's something that both sides are going to benefit from, and it ended up being that situation. So just really excited about it. Obviously, a lot of respect for the organization and all that kind of stuff. And we had a good chat with Sweens about the most important thing is the hockey, and where we see where you see you can help the team, or how you could be a positive piece of it. And I think that was really clear really early.
Yeah, actually,
let's take it there then right now. What do you know about, this is a very different team than the one you left, as happens often in the NHL, but like, especially after last year's trade deadline for the Bruins, really, really different. You know, a lot of the guys that you played with gone, traded, and they were core leaders. And now you're going to be expected to be part of that leadership group and kind of instill the culture, the values that were taught to you. So what do you know about this team right now and the key needs and how you're going to fit into that?
Well, like you said, it's a different group, that's for sure. But when you look at the group, there's still a lot of really good pieces there. The most familiar pieces to me are McAvoy and Pasta, obviously. I played with them for a lot of years, from when I came into the league to when I left to go to Columbus 4 years ago. And then Swayman was there at the tail end. But a lot of other players that I'm not personally familiar with, but I'm familiar with through other players or playing against them, and players that I have a lot of respect for. So I'm happy to come in and just be a small piece of this, and try and help do the best I can to help us win as many games as possible, and kind of help as many of us along as we can to kind of I'm careful to say get back to where it was, because I think this is a different look. This is a new chapter. This is you're going to have to do it a little differently. Maybe write a new story with this look in this group. It's not going to be the exact same. But man, was I lucky to learn a lot of really good lessons from the guys that were there before me. And I keep saying this in interviews, but you don't. When you come into this league, you're not always given that sort of leadership and that sort of, those sort of guys that are placed around you, and between Bergie and Kretsch and David Backus and Marshy and Z, and I'm leaving some out. That's why sometimes don't name them all, but just so lucky to have those guys, and you learn so much when you come into this league in that sort of situation. So just you take some of it, be yourself, and you try and pass some of it forward, and you realize that we're lucky to be there, and excited for the new opportunity.
Obviously, we're going to focus a lot on, like you said, the future and not the past. But you also had a stint in your hometown, in a place you grew up, and that was also a dream come true for you as well. So, not a lot of guys in the league get to play where they want to play, and it feels like you've gotten a couple of opportunities with two places you would have loved to don the uniform. So, can you just talk about what you learned playing in Columbus, what you got out of it? Kind of check that off your list and have that as a complete part of your NHL journey, and how that's going to maybe apply to what you can bring to Boston, back to Boston.
Right. No, good point. I've been really lucky to play in the places I've played. You learn a lot. We won a lot of games when we were in Boston the first round, and then you don't realize. And I thought I learned a lot there, but I think you don't realize how much you can learn too when it is tough and you're not winning games, and maybe you got a team that's at a different stage in the cycle of growth. Younger players, super talented players, and a good core group they have in Columbus, and I think a lot of good friends. And I'm excited for them and how they're going to be able to continue to grow. And they've got a young core of really talented players that you can learn just as much from, I think, as you can attempt to. I don't know if you attempt to teach anybody anything; you just kind of be yourself. But I think I learned a lot from those young kids too, and they're going to be the future of this league. So a fun little back and forth between younger players, younger people, and myself, who has now been around a little bit longer. But then you also get the other aspect of playing at home, and my family being around all the time. Brothers being at every single game. I don't know if they missed more than a handful of games in 4 years. Just something that you're not really able to. A lot of people and players are not able to get that opportunity. The stars kind of have to align, and what an awesome opportunity! And I'm super thankful for the city and that gets to be able to get that opportunity.
The fan reaction here was just like people were so excited to have you back. And then the journalists or Twitter or X, whatever it's called right now. I know you guys don't really care, don't really look at that, but just the reacts of the people who knew you and they were covering the Boston Bruins was like, okay, this is going to be so great for this team. And you mentioned the younger guys in Columbus. Boston has a handful of them now. Some that, they don't know if they're going to crack the lineup. We don't know. They're going to try their best and they want to be part of the future of this team. And then, of course, the guys that were drafted this year, they still have a bit of time to go, but they'll be at training camp or development camps in the future, so on and so forth. What role do you feel like you'll have with them? Do you enjoy this big brother role now? Were you a little bit of a little bro? Like maybe the other guys little bro to you when you were with Boston the first time. Now you're kind of the big bro. Do you enjoy that role?
Well, I think, Sophia, it's one of those things where you kind of read the situation and just try and figure out what's going to, what at the time, what in the place, what in the setting, what with the other players or person or teammates is going to, kind of the right thing at the time to, kind of help push the team in the right direction. But yeah, I think there's totally a piece of that, and that's something that I learned in my first bout in Boston. That to get to where you want to go, you need every single player, and there's going to be some days that I'm not feeling my best, and I'm sure someone else will be there to pick you up and bring you along. And when you're having a good day, maybe it's your turn to bring someone else along. So there's definitely pieces of that you want to keep in mind. And like I said before, I was lucky to learn that on my first round. But yeah, and like you mentioned, it's a new chapter for this team and this organization, and we want to look forward and make a positive mark for next year and beyond.
What do you know about Marco Sturm, and have you had any conversations with your new head coach?
Yeah, we had a quick conversation right after July 1st. It was a good convo. And I also know Jay Leach from my first time around in Boston. It's I've only heard good things. I'm excited to get to work. I know he was a big part of those Bruins teams of the past, and I know a lot of people are really excited to have him back. So I think it's just a continuation of getting to know each other as a coach and a player, I'm sure. And I think those are things that you look forward to kind of get to know each other in the hockey sense, especially.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what kind of role he's going to take in terms of leadership. I heard he's a player's coach. I got to talk to him myself a little bit. Obviously, he's on the younger side for a coach too, but especially given the fact that you don't have a current captain right now for the Boston Bruins. So what's a room like without a captain, especially with the Bees? When you were there, some of the best captains in the NHL with Bergeron and Chara when you were playing there. So what do you anticipate from a room without a captain, and how the group's going to have to get together around that?
Well, they're always, I've always been in a room with a captain, but I think those good teams are always leadership by committee, whether or not there's a C on someone's jersey or not. I don't think there's, if you really want to do it, correctly, or have real buy-in and real team chemistry. I think it's by committee. So no different in this situation. There's a lot of great leaders in that room. Between with the letters, and then other players in that room that I know are really good NHL players and really good people. Everybody's going to have to pull on the rope to get this thing to go where we want it to. And I don't think what letters are on what guy's jersey is necessarily a big deal or an issue of any sort. I think we all know that this thing is going to have to be done by committee in all aspects.
Awesome. The Bruins had a bit of fun on X announcing a trade, and we were like, oh God, there's a trade happening, and it was for your number. So you got your number back. What's the story behind that? Are you allowed to say what was given the other way to Andrew Peeke?
So it was funny. I talked to Peeker obviously before all this, and I know you guys know Peeker now, but obviously a really, really good person, not just because he gave me my number back, but I played with him in Columbus too. So right when I signed, Peeker reached out and was very generous to offer number 52 back to me. And at that moment, I wasn't sure what I was going to do, or wanted to do, start something new, blah blah blah. And there's obviously not many numbers to choose from in Boston. So Peter was, like I said, generous enough to make a change, and his generosity has not been yet repaid, but it will be. It was a nice, classy move by Peeker, and I kind of did joke with him. I said, I think he owes me something for wearing my jersey for a year and a half, for wearing my number for a year and a half. No, I don't think that's going to fly. It was a nice move, and debts are owed.
Debts are owed. Okay, well, it's on record now, so if you want, we can cut that out of the interview so he doesn't ever see this, okay? But I'm sure he knows.
Yeah, I said, yeah, a watch and an Apple Watch, right?
That's not bad. I mean, I would take it. Yeah. I would take it. Yeah, no. Cute trade. I'm glad you have your number back. So you played in Columbus. You've obviously played against every team in the league. You don't really, when you're visiting, you don't really spend time with other people's fans and stuff like that. But every time I talk to people who have come and gone to Boston, they just talk about the fans. And even myself here, as someone who didn't grow up here and has experienced the fans here, they really are like just so unique in the best way. And they so want to be involved. If they stop you in the street, they're so respectful. They want to chit chat, but then they move on with their day. They're not like stopping to talk to you for 10 hours. Like, it just feels like your family when you're here. And I personally love it. And I feel like you had such a great relationship with the fans and they loved you. So any interactions yet with fans, any DMs that have stood out to you? How have you processed kind of them accepting you back here with the Boston Bruins?
Yeah. And I forgot to mention, and I'll get to this in a second, but when that post was made of Peeker giving me my number back, I felt bad. He messaged me, said, "Oh my God, I thought I got traded when we traded the numbers." Oh. So PR, poor Peeker. I didn't. He mentioned to me, so I was like, "Oh God." Anyway, so we're all.
Wait. Pause. He actually thought he got traded and reached out to you. Was like, dude, I'm done. Like, I'm out. He thought that?
No. He realized quickly, but he saw the alert because it said, trade.
Right.
So, I was like, to add insult to injury when I'm getting his number. And thought he got anyway. So I felt extra.
That's pretty funny.
We're all good. It would happen quickly. Yeah. He believe it later on. But back to the fans in Boston. Yeah, like I said, I came to town for a few days and was hanging around Seaport mostly, and it was really fun. I had a bunch of interactions. I wouldn't even know how many, but so many people came up and just said just excited to have me back, and I was really caught off guard and super surprised to get any of those, let alone a few. And it seems like a good match all the way around. So I'm really excited about it. I've obviously kind of been the hometown player here in Columbus for the last 4 years, so that's been fun. But coming back to Boston, it's got a sense of being home also. So I'm really excited. And like you said, it seems like a good match, good connection between both sides.
We're definitely happy to have you back. I have one, maybe two more for you, and then we'll let you go. Just and by the way, before we started this interview, I was calling it the Kuraly leap, but I have since been corrected that it's the Corral leap. Can you confirm?
You got to take out of course, you got to take out one of those syllables. It's cleaner.
Okay. Okay. The Corral Leap. Are you looking forward to your first one at the Garden?
Oh yeah. I try to, I don't know, not force it. I think it's one of those things where if you feel it, you go. I'm sure I'll be feeling it the first time I able to do it again in a bees uniform at the Garden. I can't wait for that. So that's been something that kind of keeps you excited to train and skate and work out during some of these the days in the middle of summer. Kind of looking forward to getting back on the ice and in front of the fans and back at the Garden. It's going to be a special season, but a special first time being able to get out there.
Oh yeah, you'll just expect that Nesson's going to want to talk to you post game in a walk-off interview as soon as that happens. Okay, so be prepared for that. And I guess last thing, we were kind of chatting off camera of how much Boston's changed in just a couple years in terms of the developments and stuff like that. I'll tell you, the traffic isn't any better, so don't just get prepared for that. But the city and what's going on has grown, and anything you're looking forward to kind of doing here. I don't know if you're going to catch maybe a Red Sox game if you come back for training camp, but anything you're looking forward to seeing or doing when you come back to Boston.
Oh yeah, I already got reintegrated into the whole traffic scene. It was 4 years of open roads here in Columbus, Ohio. So I got to recalibrate to build in a little extra time to get places. So that's definitely on the list. Thank you for reminding me. I don't want to be I don't want to be late anywhere, especially coming back early in the season. So that's number one. But I think for me, just what Boston offers between how many restaurants and I obviously grew up in Columbus and I love Columbus, but to be by the ocean and my dog loves going on the water. So, off days you can go up, North Shore or wherever there's a few dog parks. Just like little things like that you beginning or end of season, obviously not in the dead of winter, but kind of the nuances that are particular to Boston and food and the fish and all that kind of thing, and feeling like it's a little bit of a bigger city feel compared to Columbus. So yeah, it's an exciting change. I'm really excited to get back to Boston and get to work.
Well, we can't wait again, like I said, to see you in the Bees uniform. We'll talk to you again for sure at training camp. Thank you for giving us this time. Welcome back to Boston. 52, Sean Kuraly, thanks again.
Thanks, Sophia. Appreciate it.
All right, Adam. I mean, I did that interview and just had to listen to myself chat again. Any takeaways from you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a familiar face returning to Boston. Obviously, this is a player who got to play alongside Zdeno Chara, Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci, and others, Brad Marchand included in that conversation. He said he didn't want to leave anybody out, but those are really the four top names that come to mind when you think about the Bruins over the years, in recent history anyway. But he's somebody who knows what the Bruins culture is all about, but he also understands that this is a completely different team. This is a team, that's got some youth, that have some question marks, and so I don't think he's living in the past, and nor should he. So, looking forward to seeing him return to Boston, and he's going to be taking on a different role because he's one of the the veteran guys now, and I think having those 4 years in Columbus, and again there's some young players in the Blue Jackets organization as well. So he's sort of used to playing that type of role. So I'm looking forward to seeing him on the ice in Boston doing something similar.
Yeah, I definitely feel like this is, I mean, I don't feel like it. It's just obvious. It is a 2.0 for him. It's the second time he's playing for the Bruins. But like you said, and like he and I discussed, a completely different team. And he's matured. He's 32 right now. He was always a mature person, a mature player. But when you don't have to have that role, when you have such leaders and you can just lean on them, it's like it's like the analogy I like to use is, at least I'm like this. If I'm not driving, if someone else is driving, I have no idea where we're going. Like I'm just like along for the ride. I can't remember how to get there. But if I'm the one driving and in charge of the directions, like I can, I can get there in my sleep. But if you're kind of along for the ride, you're not necessarily taking this like stance in leadership. You're part of it. But I am very certain, and I would be shocked if I was proven wrong, that he's going to be a major voice in that room. And I'm really excited to kind of talk to him about that once it starts happening. Watch him, and then talk to some of the younger players about that, because I have no doubt that when he was talking through his agent or with Don, that it wasn't just about being a reliable third or fourth line guy. It was about that. So Sean's going to be able to do that. We actually went a little longer, Adam, on the interview. Sean brought something up, a blooper, so to speak, that we had a while ago early on. We are going to play that after commercial break. So guys, stay tuned. We had a funny moment with Sean Kuraly in 2019, and we relived it a little at the end of the interview. So we'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the Hockey Hub. If you're just joining us, we had an interview with Sean Kuraly at the start of the show. He talked about just his return to Boston, his experience in Columbus. And then Adam, as promised, after the interview ended, I wanted to bring this up to Sean, but then I was like, I don't know if he's going to remember. Also, it's a little embarrassing for the both of us. I'm just going to leave it off the table. And then kind of we said goodbye. The interview was over, and he stayed online and was like, do you remember that interview we did back in 2019? I was like, okay, so you do remember. Okay, so I'm giving you a bit of context. I was a fresh Nesson employee. It was a couple months in. I was still getting my bearings in terms of like what it was like to ringside report for one team and one team only, blah, blah, blah. The Bruins were great that season, but they had been struggling with shots on net, which we saw a lot this past season, but they'd been struggling to get shots through. And they were down a couple of goals in, I believe, the second period against the New York Islanders. And through two, they had like 6 shots on net or 7. The Islanders didn't have many more. They had 10 or something. So naturally, the question was like how to generate more offense, how to get through, how to penetrate the neutral zone wherever, they were getting kind of blocked, and how to get more shots on net. I didn't ask it as nicely, as cleanly as that. And he was pissed. Like, not at me. He was just like, he was pissed. Like, they're not playing well. They take this very seriously. So he's not really in the mood for an interview. And I'll let it play out so you can hear how it's answered. But yeah, you know what? I'm not going to give it anymore. Let's let this play out, and then we can talk about it after. Here we go.
Very tight game on both ends defensively. I'm sure the Islanders are thinking the same thing, but what do you guys want to do to get more shots on net?
Well, I think, we need offense, so it is shots on net. I'd shoot the puck. So to get shots on net, you just put the puck in deep. You got to be in the O-zone to get shots on net, and to get shots on net, you just shoot.
Wasn't your fault. I watched that a million times too. I asked a stupid question, dude. I think I just said, like, how do you get more shots on net? Like, that's a stupid question. How do you answer that when you're pissed off,
It was, oh, God. It didn't have to be as hard as I made it, Sophia. That's for sure. Oh, goodness.
So your teammates in Columbus, like, would razz you about that?
Oh, my God. One of the guys got a hold of it, and that was the end of it. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so just for context, before that, he was saying that he's been reminded of it every day. Well, probably not literally, but pretty much every day. One of his teammates, as you just heard, got a hold of it in Columbus, and so it'd like go around the chat. They'd bring it up if he did walk-offs and stuff like that. They'd be like, "Hey, shots on net. How do you get shots on net?" It's not as bad as I thought watching back, but I remember it being awkward. And then I remember, I think like Barstool reposted it, and they're like, "If you ask stupid questions, you get stupid answers." But how many times did he say shots on net? Like 4. So anyway, that was our little moment. What did you think, Adam?
So it actually reminded me of an interview after an NCAA tournament game that went viral. Torian Prince, player from Baylor, was asked how they got out-rebounded by Yale, right? So Yale, an underdog opponent, Baylor's supposed to be, just dominating, but they were out-rebounded by Yale. And so a reporter asked, how does Baylor get out-rebounded by Yale? And the player said, well, what happens is when you go up to get a rebound, you grab the ball with both hands and then you secure it. And that's a rebound, and they got more of those than we did. So he was clearly frustrated with the question, and that can sometimes happen, right? And that was an interview, I believe, an intermission, right? And so that was an intermission interview. This was a post-game interview that I'm talking about, and so the difference is there is a little bit of a cooling off period post-game. There is no cooling off period in intermission. Those guys are walking off the ice, down the hallway, and into the interview room. And so sometimes those types of things happen. And it actually reminded me, so typically we do those interviews at first intermission, not at second intermission. Sometimes they happen at second intermission. And I've done some second intermission interviews, and you have as well. I don't like doing the second intermission interviews because you got the third period, and it's the last 20 minutes to decide the game, maybe more if you have overtime, right? And I did an interview with Charlie McAvoy at second intermission one night in St. Louis. And and again, and I what's that?
I said, I know the one. I want you to describe it, but I remember it happening because it stood out to me. But go on.
Yeah, so I got so Charlie McAvoy comes off the ice. Now, this was a road trip that the Bruins had lost. I believe this was the fourth and final game, and they had lost everyone in overtime or a shootout leading in, right? So they got points in each of those games, but they had lost the first three in either overtime or shootout. And so here we are in a situation in St. Louis where the Bruins are tied at 1, I believe, heading into the third period. And I had asked Charlie, I had said, hey, you know, what's the key to pulling out the victory here over the last 20 minutes? And he's just like, we got to find a way to win. And was walking away, like as he was answering the question. As it turns out, he scored the game winner in overtime. So it ended up working out. And I think that Nesson actually used it in one of the promos for an upcoming game. In the heat of the moment, these players, they just want to, I mean, that's all they can see is, you know, what's ahead of them on the ice. And, you know, those interviews can be tough at times. So I get it. I understand it. And I know you do as well.
Yeah, I remember seeing that because I was hosting from the studio and I remember watching it. And then like my initial reaction was like, I was kind of, I don't use the word annoyed, but I was like, ugh, like I was like, I felt bad for you because he was walking away as he was saying it. But then you do have to remember being in their shoes, and I love that like he had that annoyance and pride. Like it's like, oh, we're losing again, whatever, you know what I mean? It was just like that we're sick of this, I'm tired of this, and it's gonna show. And I wear my heart on my sleeve, but I remember feeling bad for you, and I was like, oh, like that's not fair, that's not really nice. But that's that. And side note, in 2019, I think after COVID things changed, but in 2019 we used to have to do walk-offs in the first and second period, and then if they won, post game, which doesn't sound that big of a deal, but like this past season I had a really good season. 2019 was great. The Bruins were like I think they were the President's Trophy winners, but whatever, they were doing really well. So lots of wins and lots of good play, but when they're not playing well, to come up with two sets of creative questions in a slump. And it's not about not asking difficult questions. It's not about that if anyone's saying like, oh, you're afraid to ask tough questions. It's about being creative. These guys are tired, like you said, they're coming off the ice, and it's about, you know, getting good answers for good TV and analysis if you can do that. But when you're not playing well, it's tough. It's tough to get that. So to have two intermission interviews was really tough. One thing I learned, and then I'll ask you if you've learned anything since doing Rinkside with the Bruins, but one thing I've learned is do not ask a player if he's got a penalty that period, especially if they score on like the opposing team scores on the power play. If he was in the box for that, he definitely doesn't want to talk to the media. And then unless they score a big goal, like you got to talk to them. But if they're doing the final shift of the period, they're so gassed when they come off the ice. Like try not to get a guy that was just on the ice 30 seconds ago, you know, chasing around a puck. But those are my key learnings. Anything you have taken away from doing walk-offs?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's any specific thing, but generally I try to gear my questions toward the team play rather than the individual. There are certain situations where you do have to ask individual questions. I mean, if somebody reaches a milestone moment like we saw, you know, Brad Marchand, David Pastrnak over the last couple of years hit some milestones. I mean, you have to ask those questions because, you know, they're important questions to ask. But for the most part, I try to keep it team-centric because that's all they care about is the end result, right? right? They want to see the team pick up the 2 points. And so, yeah, that's probably, what I stick to most is just the team questions.
Yeah, no, the team questions are good. Yeah, and if there's a goal or like a sweep play, you're going to want to ask about that. And then Sean Kuraly said, I think we cut it out of this, but he said he wants a redo. So I think we're going to try to stage a redo where I ask him how to get more shots on net, and he'll answer it differently, I think.
Yeah, I think he
6
will. Well,
years
I think
later.
that's part of the maturation process, right? I mean, you talk to a much younger Sean Kuraly, who probably, who obviously didn't have as much media experience back then. And so I think that, that's part of the player development as well, because let's face it, talking to the media is part of the job. And so I think that over time, these players sort of learn how to answer the questions and sort of, there's sort of a balance there, right? At the same time, you don't want to say too much, but at the same time, you also want to satisfy, the question itself and answer the question as thoroughly and as thoughtfully as you can. And so, yeah, he's certainly learned, I'm sure, over the years. But another thing too, Sophia, because we brought it up, and in terms of what we've learned, well, we haven't had a lot of losing seasons around here, right? And so this past season, there was a lot going on, at the trade deadline, and then losing 10 in a row after the trade deadline, and it was really a tough sledding. And I think over the years we've asked these guys questions about how do you get back on track, right? If they're going through a losing streak of some kind, and how are you building towards the playoffs, right? Because I think that's part of that's hockey players speak, right? You talk about trusting the process and not necessarily focused on the results as much. And you talk about building your game, and you get to the point where you're at the end of the season and it's time for the postseason. And that's something that we're used to around here. Well, that was not the case, obviously, this year. And so you are building your game, and you're trying to do the best you can and put the effort on the ice, but you're also not building towards the postseason. And so you talk about getting a little bit more creative with your questions. That can be a little bit more challenging, right? Because you're not building towards that postseason that we're all used to. And so if players are going through a losing streak and you're seeing the same issues over and over again, the questions can be repetitive. And so that can be challenging.
Absolutely. And really quick, people forget, and it is our job that's our job, to get creative, make sure we ask tough questions, interesting questions, thought-provoking questions. But we also have a relationship with these guys, and we see them in the rooms every day where they're at practice, where they're answering the same things already. So to the viewer, it's like, oh, this is maybe your first opportunity to talk to them. But it's like, no, we've talked about this issue so many times. Like, how do I bring this up again in a unique way? And not for nothing, I have been in scrums recently in a weird way, because like, why the hell would I be doing scrums? But there's a lot of movement. I'm very glad about women entering the sports space, right? So we have a lot of panels and discussions and conferences for women who want to enter the sports space. And I'm often a speaker. And after that, there have been a couple times when I've been in a small scrum of like little reporters or a couple reporters or young budding journalists that want to do what we do. And I'm in a scrum answering their questions about working in the space. It's so terrifying. Like it's crazy. You have a couple people coming at you at the same time and a bright light on you. And I do this for a living. And I found myself really tongue tied when I was in a scrum. And this happened just 2 times over the last couple of years. And it gave me a completely different perspective for the players, like to be on the spot when you're thinking about the game and not thinking about how to answer a question. So I'm just throwing that out there. It looks easy. It's not that easy.
It's not, and you don't want to say the wrong thing. And in this day and age, anything you say is going to be posted on social media, and it's going to live forever, right? And so you don't want to become a viral moment in a bad way. And so that's got to be in the back of their minds as well. And that's what I mentioned, earlier about the Sean Kuraly interview that you did. It was a much younger player, and so and he's coming off the ice, right? So you get a different answer. When you talk to players at intermission in the moment or post game, you'll get a different answer than you would if it were after a practice or if it were a sit down interview, because all of these different things are going through their heads at the time. And so that's why it's probably a lot more difficult for younger players not used to the media spotlight to answer those questions. And so that's part of the maturation of a player answering questions from the media.
100%. We'll get Kuraly to do a little redo. But Adam, we got to pay some bills, so we're going to send it to break. We're going to be back to talk about who's going to be wearing the A's, a couple of A's this season for the Boston Bruins, and possible trade rumors. We'll be right back after
Offense,
this.
so it is shots on net. I'd shoot the puck. So to get shots on net, you just put the puck in deep. You got to be in the ozone to get shots on net, and to get shots on net, you just shoot.
Welcome back to Hockey Hub. Adam and Sophia back with you. We heard from Sean Kuraly. We talked about interviewing Sean Kuraly, including your infamous interview back in 2019. We've all learned a lot from that, I guess. And we talked about the art of interviewing when things can be tough. So we'll segue into something that we did touch upon, and you mentioned it before the break, Sophia. Charlie McAvoy and David Pastrnak set to wear the A again this upcoming season. That's according to the Boston Herald's Steve Conroy, who was a guest on the Hockey Hub with you and Judd earlier in the week. And the question is, going into the year, whether or not there'll be a captain, right? And obviously Brad Marchand was the team captain before that, Patrice Bergeron, Zdeno Chara. It's been a while since the Bruins haven't had a captain. And so Conroy got to talk to Charlie McAvoy, and McAvoy basically said, going into the year, they're both going to have A's, he and David Pastrnak. He said, that's what I know. I don't think there's any fire under them, meaning the team, to do anything with that. And guess what? That's totally fine. He goes on to talk about how he and Pasta are spending time together, learning about each other a little bit more. So, yeah, I mean, that kind of makes sense, right? If there's not a clear-cut captain, you don't want to force it. And what stood out in the Sean Kuraly interview as well is that he had said everybody needs to pull on the rope, right? It's not just one guy or the guys who are wearing the letters. It's everybody, especially, when you have this sort of, not changing of the guard, but the roster is going through changes in sort of a transformation. So I think that, that sort of makes sense. What do you think?
I definitely, we've talked about this so many times on the podcast, and I've just had a new thought, which I didn't think it was possible because we've talked about it so many times. But just in thinking about how they are not going to name a captain, Marco Stern made that clear. He wants to get to know the players before he has a say. And I know it's not just his say, but before that happens, I like the idea of like a dual captaincy. We've kind of had 1A, 1B for the last couple of years, or last decade or so in Boston. But what I like about that is that it's going to force, he said in the article to Steve Conroy that him and Pasta were spending more time together. It's going to force them to talk things out and by committee agree on, whatever the topic at hand is, and they're going to bring other people in. Not to say that they wouldn't have done that already, but if you're naming a captain this early, you never know. Maybe one of them would try to do too much and exclude the other, or take it upon himself to be the decision maker. Maybe it'd get to their head. And these are good character guys like McAvoy and Pasta, so I'm not saying that could happen to them, but there's a lot of pressure to follow in the footsteps of the previous captains. So I really like that it's just them two for now wearing the A, and that they're kind of like co-captaining this team and then bringing people in. So I think it's going to do a lot of team building. And even basically what I'm trying to say is, with this article saying we're spending a lot of time together, they're aware that it's up to them. And that's what McAvoy said. This is our team. It's up to us too, and all the others. But right now, like, they're the ones who are in communication with Bergeron and with Chara. McAvoy talked about that in the locker cleanout, that they're talking to them all the time about how to bring back what they had. And so to do it together, I don't know. I like that it's a two-headed monster right now. I think it's going to be good for the team.
Yeah, I agree. And it's one less thing to worry about. There's a lot of other things that they need to focus on going into training camp, right? Because you have a lot of new faces. Yeah. You have a new head coach. You're coming off a last place finish. And the focus is going to be getting off to a good start in training camp. And again, with or without an official captain title, David Pastrnak and Charlie McAvoy, as you use the term co-captains, that's what they pretty much are. They're the unquestioned leaders of that room, and there are other leaders in that room, other veterans as well. And mention, you have to mention Nikita Zadorov and Elias Lindholm and players like that who, they're relatively new to Boston, but they've been in the league a long time, and they've been in the postseason, and they understand, what it takes to win games and to get to that next level. And so you need those veteran guys in the room. And so I think with a lot of young players, it's important to have not just one guy, but and over the years too, you heard about Zdeno Chara delegating responsibilities to some of the other guys, and then Patrice Bergeron carrying on that tradition with Brad Marchand as well. And so it's going to be McAvoy, it's going to be Pastrnak, and then there's going to be, responsibilities delegated to other players as well to kind of, lead this group moving forward.
I think we'll see what kind of leader Sean becomes in the room. We obviously talked about Kuraly half the show, but someone who I think could definitely wear an A is Morgan Geekie. Obviously, his play has gone up, but just he's so mature and so wonderful to talk to. And I think that's just like for me in the media, but I know that translates to the room as well. Very level-headed, doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. That's from what I've heard from his teammates. I think he can definitely wear the A this year as well. What are your thoughts on Geeks donning that?
Yeah, absolutely. And we might see that at some point, right? If David Pastrnak doesn't play in a game, right? That's what happens when, players are out who have a letter, somebody else will wear the letter for the game. So I could absolutely see that. Morgan Geekie just signed that contract. He's going to be in Boston for the long haul. I mean, he emerged as one of the top players on the roster last year. So yeah, I could absolutely see that happening, as I could see that with Pavel Zacha as well. But the thing about Pavel Zacha, as we segue to this quickly, is the trade rumors that are percolating here in the offseason. According to the Fourth Period podcast, the Bruins explored a trade of Pavel Zacha during the season, and there's belief that Boston is still looking to move them. And again, this is just a report from one outlet, but the rumors are out there. And with a guy like Pavel Zacha, I mean, personally, I like him, and I like him as a player as well because of what he brings to the table, things that don't show up in the box score. He's a two-way centerman. He can win you face-offs. He's, a player who's present on special teams, whether it's penalty kill or power play. He's got 2 more years left on his contract. I mean, he would be a valuable piece to another team. And, you sort of wonder, all right, well, if that move happens, could there be a bigger move that the Bruins execute if they trade a Zacha? But, it's not a player you'd like to see go, but if the rumors are out there and he's of value to somebody. And by the way, it doesn't surprise me that his name was mentioned in trade rumors, because you saw how many trades the Bruins made at the deadline. You feel like almost everybody, with the exception of McAvoy and Pastrnak, were on the table. But what do you think about that possibility?
I mean, I was reading the comments. So this is tweeted by the Fourth Period, and then I was like reading the comments underneath, and had my own thoughts at first. I know that he wanted to have a better season than he did. Just re-looking at the numbers, I mean, 47 points isn't that bad. 14 goals. I know it's definitely not bad at all. But for him, I know he wanted to do better. 59 points the previous season, 57 the one before that, 14 goals. I'm sure he wanted to be a plus 20 goal scorer. So, okay, fine. Not the best season, but we're talking about an entire Bruins team that didn't have the best season except for Morgan Geekie and David Pastrnak. So can't really get on him for that. Otherwise, a very reliable player, player, isn't making good with the puck, isn't coughing up the puck too much at the blue line or whatever, the neutral zone. Way forward, I think if you're going to be giving up someone like Pavel Zacha, and we know that the Bruins are hurting for, or curious what their top 6 is going to be, so that there's no clarity there. What's Middlestat going to be like? I think it's a risky move unless that 100% what you're getting in return is going to make your team better. We know that Pavel Zacha going the other way will likely make any team better or bolster a second line, and he's going to be reliable and he's going to be great. So it would have to be a no risk. Like, we absolutely need this position to be filled. We absolutely need this kind of a player, or this player has a ton of upside and they're a rookie or whatever. It would have to be a move like that for me. Otherwise, I think it's risky, because where are you going to get that's better unless you're giving up another piece as well? Like, unless you're kind of making a package deal, which I don't know if that was, part of the trade rumor or not.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Still a lot of off-season left. I know everybody looks at July 1 and thinks, the off-season is over after the first day of free agency. There will be no more signings or trades, but that's certainly not the case. So still got a long ways to go before training camp. All right, we're going to wrap things up on the Hockey Hub and look at some of the questions you sent to us. That's coming up next.
Welcome back to the Hockey Hub. Sophie and Adam here with you. We've got 1 minute and 30 seconds, Adam, to answer a fan question, okay? Or comment. This one from Steve Morrison, 5864 on the Bruins power play. Simple and sweet. Our power play will improve with Steve Spott running it. Steve Spott, the latest and final assistant coach hired for the Boston Bruins. I think anything would be an improvement. So there's the baseline. There's a baseline there. But yeah, obviously he's got his experience, Marco Sturm weighing in on that. And we had him on the show a month or so ago whenever he got hired. And he was talking about how he is planning to run the power play. Still didn't really get to know the guys. So didn't really have too much insight for us exactly who, what, where, when, how. But definitely wants to make Pastrnak more available because players are on him, and his shot had been taken away quite a bit, so that was one of the keys, and essentially moving the puck faster and just making all 5 guys on the ice potential threats, and I think that's a big key.
Absolutely, and Brick always says this, you want to be creative and unpredictable on the power play, and something that Brad Marchand had said last year during the Bruins power play struggles was that, you know what, you can get in your initial set, structure can be good, but it's all about retrieval, and so hopefully Steve Spott can ignite this power play unit, and it'll be interesting to see who's on the power play unit when the season rolls around.
Best part about a tough season is it's a very interesting training camp and summer, and we're going to have lots of storylines to talk about. But we got to go. We'll be back on Monday, everyone, at 10 a.m. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you then.